What's up, guys? This is Jan for Chess24. We are covering the game of the day in the Tata Steel Masters, round number 8. Many a worthy contender, but the game I enjoyed the most was the game between Levon Aronian and Aronian-Giri. So that's the one that I shall look at. In case you're bitterly disappointed to see my pretty face, Peter Svidler had to leave to Gibraltar, where he's playing a very strong tournament. So you're going to have to bear with me or Lawrence Trent for the remaining highlight videos. Apologies for that in advance. In our game of the day, both opponents did not have a great day. The round before, Levon Aronian blundered a piece on move 11, which his opponent Sergei Karyakin did not accept, and he still went on to lose the game in a not very well played manner. Aronian-Giri maybe did have a great day. He was tortured for 7 hours by Magnus Carlsen, was completely lost at some point, but in the end held the draw. However, in Vike there's no easy opponents, and back-to-back blacks against Carlsen and Aronian is probably as tough as it gets. Levon Aronian, one of the last Mohicans that play pretty much exclusively d4, c4, knight f3, no e4 in Levon's repertoire, and Aronian-Giri goes for knight f6 followed by e6. Anish can play anything in the opening. Knight f3, d5, and Levon chooses his main weapon, the Catalan, which is met by bishop b4 check in this game. Bishop e7 and bishop b4 check equally popular at the highest level. After bishop e7 you typically get this line where black goes for dc4, while bishop b4 check is an indicator that black wants to play a more closed position, because in closed lines after bishop d2, bishop e7, this bishop is not ideal here. It would rather be on c1 than b2. But after castles, black no longer has any interest in playing dc4, instead playing c6, arguing this bishop is slightly worse on d2. So far so good. We've seen this position literally thousands of times. Queen c2 here has been played, I think, 2,500 times. There's also many games with bishop f4. But Levon Aronian manages to play a move in this position that has never been played, at least not in my database. That's not an easy achievement, especially since it makes some sense. He plays the move knight to a3. Novelty covers the c4 pawn, so dc4 is out of the question, and prepares to develop this rook very quickly. There's of course some reasons why it's never been played. Knight on the rim is dim and so on. I don't think this move refutes the Catalan, but still. Kudos to Levon for coming up with a new idea on move number 8 in a very well-known position. Bishop takes a3, of course, is the first question you might have, but after b takes a3, d takes c4, it won't be easy for black to hang on to the c4 pawn, while he has given up his good bishop on a3. For example, bishop b4, rook e8, and knight e5 seems to win the pawn back immediately, when I'd rather be white. Anish instead played the move knight bd7, first of all, sticking to development and wondering what the white play could be all about. Rook to c1, and now Anish decided to play knight e4, which is a fairly logical move as well, since white did not really fight for that square. Why not put your knight there and threaten to take the bishop, because white does not want to give that bishop up. An alternative could be to just play b6, bishop b7, the standard plan for such positions. I'm guessing Anish was worried about a very quick cd5 here, since the white rook is already on the c-file faster than usual. So knight e4, perfectly good move. And it was met by Levon putting his bishop on the e3 square. I'm a bit curious, why not the f4 square? But the computer says that bishop f4 should be met by g5. And these modern chess players, they don't know many prejudice, so it's very possible that g5 is just a good move here. Bishop e3, f5. And you don't want to give that tempo. Therefore, Levon played bishop to e3, and now Anish, to my surprise, frankly, decided to take on a3. This, as I explained earlier, is a very committal decision positionally, because even though you double white's pawns, you do give up not just the bishop pair, but your good bishop that was in charge of guarding all these dark squares, and you're left with his bad bishop. So in order to do it, you better have a very direct follow-up. Long term, this would not be a good idea. The alternative, once again, would be to play b6, which I like better now with knight e4, bishop e3 included. Let's say cd, cd, I don't know, knight b5, even a6 looks fine, or bishop b7, when I don't think black has any particular reasons to be unhappy. And yeah, it would also have been maybe a more practical reaction, because it's likely that Levan Aronian, who's the side playing the novelty, has analyzed the consequences of sharper lines like bishop takes a3. Anyway, after b takes a3, Anish's point was to play knight to d6. This looks quite good at first sight. If white goes knight d2, defending his pawn, you go knight f5. This bishop can't move because d4 would then drop, and if black gets the bishop, he's at the very least doing perfectly fine. If white goes cd5, black goes ed5, and his bishop will get out with, once again, a very playable position for black. So the only move white really has is c5. That was played in the game, and Giri's knight jumps to c4. If it goes to f5 now, then bishop f4, white is just better. So knight c4 was his idea, but here, well, I'm guessing here, but I'm guessing that he did underestimate the exchange sacrifice that was played in the game, which is very strong and very educational to me. Rook takes c4 in this position, forcing d takes c4, of course, and after queen to c2, white will win one pawn back, and he will have tremendous compensation because especially the black bishop is very bad, and the structure with an extra white pawn in the center favors white greatly. As usual, there are some tactics connected to the thing. b5, for example, looks like it's keeping the pawn at first sight, but then you spot the nasty move knight to g5, threatening queen h7 checkmate and targeting the c6 pawn. So that would not be great news for black, and possibly because of that option, Anish decided to play h6. But now Levan reclaims the pawn. He does have a bishop and a pawn for the exchange, which is enough, even though I do know these pawns don't look so pretty. This is a very dangerous position for black. Giri decides to play b6, natural enough move, tending maybe to play a5 followed by bishop a6, but it turns out that after b6 it's going to be very hard for black to ever break in the center, and maybe this was a good moment, or the last moment really, to try to organize some play here with e5. D takes e, rook e8. I'm still not a fan of black's position, but it seems like this was a better chance. Queen c3, queen e7, let's say bishop d4, now b6, and at the very least white is kind of busy maintaining his center and the position can become extremely complicated. Well, after b6, Aronian plays another strong move. Obvious but very strong. Bishop f4, transferring this bishop to his ideal location on d6. And rook e8, anticipating bishop d6, doesn't change much because this bishop was going to land there. Either way, after bishop d6, Giri settled for the very passive and slightly sad-looking bishop b7. But a5, intending to bring the bishop to a more active square, doesn't really free his pieces, even if white just maintains the status quo. Let's say queen c2, bishop a6, a4. It's still impossible for black to fully free his position. After bc, dc, you have to deal with the knight coming to d4. Rook b1 is coming. It's very unpleasant. This bishop is just stronger than either black rook. So not an easy defense either. Giri decides to play bishop b7, get this bishop out of the way, and Aronian does not waste any time transforming his advantage by playing knight to e5. I wasn't sure about this move. There's also a lot to be said for playing more slowly. Rook to b1, followed by queen to c2, when white enjoys a stable advantage as well. But knight e5 just pronounces that this bishop is so strong that white doesn't mind exchanges at all. Some exchanges did follow: b takes c5, d takes c5, and knight takes e5, bishop takes e5. This bishop will return back to base, so it's very temporary. Now Giri decided to try to free his bishop by playing a5, once again hinting at bishop a6. But Aronian says, if you want to go to a6, be my guest. Plays rook b1, occupies the open file, which, as mentioned, black can never contest by rook b8, which is very important. After bishop a6, white would just go away, probably queen c2, targeting the c6 pawn. This bishop might look a little more active, but it's still fairly empty diagonal, and black is still under a great deal of pressure in something like this. Are no good moves, therefore rook a7 can't really be criticized. Aronian keeps his foot on the gas, goes queen c3, and starts provoking some weaknesses on the king side, because he understands it won't be so easy to break through just on the queen side. Therefore, he starts probing here, and f6, of course, is not a move black particularly enjoys. Another sad move follows now, bishop to a8. I understand this move. Black has to clear the 7th rank to bring his rook into the game, and he doesn't want to go to a6 because c6 is hanging. But still, if you have to put your bishop on a8, something has normally gone wrong. This is not an exception. Not sure if that's a good rule. Bishop e4, nice move by Aronian, hinting at ideas like bishop c2 followed by queen d3 and queen h7, or the more prosaic bishop to g6. In order to stop bishop g6, Giri decides he has to go f5, but that of course once again weakens his kingside, the dark squares, and gives white a hook with the following e4, which Aronian does not waste a lot of time getting in. Rook b7, of course white does not want to exchange these rooks, because the black rooks really struggle to be productive members of society here. So after rook b7, white plays rook d1, and rook to d7 is followed by e4, opening the position further. At the risk of sounding like a broken record, black does have a material advantage on paper, but it's not felt at all because the white bishop just completely dominates the black army. And the contrast in bishops on a8 and d6 is too stark. After e4, black doesn't really have any good moves. Fe4 can be met by queen e3 or queen e5, preparing queen takes e4, setting up this battery, and the black position just collapses. Therefore, Giri decided to at least offer the exchange of queens by playing queen f6, giving white a more than pleasant choice. I believe there's no bad moves here. Queen takes f6, gf, ef, picks up a second pawn while leaving all of black's pieces bad. So this was very strong. Queen takes a5, just picking up the a5 pawn also looks perfectly fine. And the move played in the game, queen to c4, also keeps the foot on the gas. I've used that before by threatening e takes f5. Giri goes king h8. Aronian keeps probing rook e1, threatening ef again. Queen f7. At least defending against ef, because now after ef everything's still connected. But white has such a tremendous advantage, he can just keep making small moves, no rush whatsoever. Queen d3, once again intending to play ef5. f4, Giri does not want to allow the further opening of the position, but this costs him another pawn, at least temporarily. And after g takes f4, black really hasn't achieved very much if you allow e5 or f5 or king h1, really anything. Your position just becomes worse. Therefore, Giri shows that his idea was to create an immediate crisis by playing e5 here. Maybe targeting this, maybe hoping for some counterplay on the king side, and at least giving white a chance to go wrong. However, Aronian stays on top of things, plays a very strong move, queen to h3. His point is that after e takes f4, e5, now with the control of the e6 square, it's just devastating. e6 is a massive threat, and this bishop will deliver the coup de grace from b3 or f5. Therefore, Giri finds the best chance, because he also can't wait for bishop b3. Giri finds the best chance, returns the exchange here, rook d6, cd6, and at least gets rid of this monstrous kraken of a bishop that white had on d6 and picks up the d6 pawn. The trouble, however, is now with equal material. That's not true, white is a pawn up already. And the bishop on a8 is still a terrible piece that will need a while to get into the game. So Giri is still struggling here. And after rook d1, white is also first to occupy the open file. The black position remains very, very bad. Queen c5, you could argue queen e6 or queen f8 were more resilient, but none of those are fun moves to make either. After queen c5, white goes rook d7, threatens checkmate here. And the end is near. It's just a matter of calculating it till the end, and the player of Levon Aronian's caliber, if he doesn't have a complete off day like against Karyakin, has no trouble doing so. Rook g8 parries the mate, bishop to b3, targets that rook, e takes f4, at least tries to distract the queen from g7, but no such luck. The white queen goes to g6, saying, you want to give some checks? Be my guest, because after queen c1 check, I will play rook d1, followed by bishop takes g8, and you resign. Well, if you play f3, as happened in the game, I can't take on g8 yet, because this would be kind of painful. No longer rook d1. But white has the very strong, cool, calm, and collected move h4, giving his king a luft on h2 against checks, covering the g5 square just in case you need it. Once again, he's ready to meet queen c1 with rook d1 and picking up the rook. Therefore, there's not a whole lot that black can do. Giri tries best chance queen c3 to give a check here. But the following sequence is not difficult. Bishop takes g8, queen e1 check, king h2, queen takes f2 check, king h3, queen f1 check, king g4. And the game ends because after queen g2 check, king h5, queen g6, king g6. White is a rook up. If you take here, rook d8, checkmate is quite effective. So, not Giri's greatest game, but I thought a very instructive, dominating positional performance by Levon Aronian. First he played a Novelty in a position we've seen thousands of times with knight a3. Then when Giri challenged him with his bishop takes a3, followed by knight d6, which I don't think will find many followers, he came up with this, or he played this very strong c5, rook c4, sacrifice, and never gave black a chance to come back into the game. Nice game by Levon Aronian. Anish Giri back on 50%. Levon Aronian, I don't even know, +1. Both sides won't be thrilled with that tournament so far, but there's still a lot of games to play. Thank you guys for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.